Okay, so we're just gonna have a quick I'm just gonna have a quick discussion um, of the relationship between academic achievements, including achievements with, uh, you know, uh, private education stuff, like such as work certifications and intelligence level and stuff. Now, intelligence level has a different manner of referencing here. I'm talking about the the uh, the tier level of a thinking skill and its extent. So it's a rank and scale system. It's not a linear scale where it's like this is always better and contains everything from below. No, there's actually lower level thinking skills that are exclusive to certain occupations or types of personalities that just that are just exclusive, but are still very very effective and high quality in themselves. And from many years of reading about the brain and psychology and the topic of intelligence, I I can I I know what I'm talking about. Okay, um, so though it was mostly textbook readings and stuff, it wasn't um, there wasn't a lot of peer-reviewed documentation that really laid things out and stuff. Um, but hey, I mean, textbooks are textbooks. You know, they were university textbooks and stuff. So um, now this is what you have to understand is that, like, there's this conventional notion that your IQ is strongly influential for academic performance and things involving learning outcomes at work and stuff like that and what jobs you can do. And this is true, but we have to understand that IQ is one of the currencies that are paid into these outcomes and stuff. Um, it's not a perfect one-to-one correlation for many reasons and stuff. There's many things that affect the statistical readout aspect of it and stuff, but I want to talk about it conceptually. And so the when it comes to IQ and intelligence level and stuff, IQ in itself is actually a much simpler concept and stuff. Um, you you are tested on just a few things and stuff. They want to see how quickly your brain can scramble to understand um, the problem, the level of problem and stuff, and to what extent you have a capacity to solve it and stuff. So there's not that many mental faculties actually being thrown out there and stuff. Um, though I can imagine test takers experience a lot of mental excitation involving with the pressure to do well and stuff, which could be beneficial or detrimental. Um, but yeah, um, if now with the thing about IQ and intelligence level and academic outcomes is that you know it's it's categorically consistent that with a higher intelligence ranking, a person is simply going to learn faster, right? Like because the brain has more connections and stuff, so every time it fires, it's actually picking up more per stroke per cycle and stuff. And it can be argued that the uh, the rate of firing of the neurons is always the same and stuff, but I think the more up to date science, the more complete science shows that with stronger chemical agonists and stuff, they can cause those systems to fire more rapidly and stuff. I mean, think about like the brain with alpha GPC versus not alpha G, or without alpha GPC, or with choline or without choline and stuff. Choline and alpha GPC have some relationships and stuff. They're semi-analogous and stuff because alpha GPC has choline. So, but going back to closer to the the tree trunk of the conversation instead of the branch that I just went on and stuff because I did kind of go on a tangent there. Um, you like you're going to have to, when it comes to studying and stuff, a person's going to have to do a certain amount of repetitions, even if it's zero and stuff, even if the repetitions is in the negatives and stuff, uh, to make a certain amount of points on the test and stuff. They are related and stuff because again, your intelligence level is related to your academic outcomes and stuff. However, the the how quickly you learn is is more linearized than not. in its nature and stuff. So what we're seeing here is a concept um, that is kind of that that is kind of perceived as glued to the matter and stuff. However, it can be replaced with a more non-linear, maybe even quantized concept and stuff. Though we're not really going to the mathematics of it right now. Um, so uh, um, so because of that linear, that influence of the linearity and stuff, a person has to understand that, you know, just because they have to work very hard to do well and stuff, doesn't mean that they're stupid or less intelligent and stuff. So this notion of like the more intelligent people have to do less work and stuff probably has more to do with effects regarding diminishing returns and with regards to economic balancing mechanisms. Um, it's pretty you find this in many places, that not only that repeated strategies, repeated operations have diminishing returns and stuff, as a generalization of, repeated strategies having diminishing returns, there there's also a leveling tendency in society, which is, related to the just the total energy of the system and stuff. As so, but because that system can only draw so much energy per cycle of just really any process and stuff, and the means of that process happening tends to be fixed and stuff, that it tends not to improve. So you're going to those diminishing returns it's a very likely guarantee and stuff. Um, so a person has to so what's the takeaway of this? Well, a person has to understand that just because they're doing more work than maybe even everybody else to do well, it doesn't mean they're stupid and stuff. It doesn't mean their IQ is lower. It doesn't mean their intelligence level is lower. Okay, it means um, that their strategy is creating insurance and stuff. Um, in itself, it seems irrational, but to a person who's very, very laser focused and stuff, they're only going to be good at what they're focused at, and that's perfectly fine and stuff. Um, Regardless of the demand of whatever knowledge work or mental labor that you're doing, there's going to be some degree of, psychologically excluding, you know, the chaff and taking the wheat. I've referenced taking the wheat from the chaff many times in this channel and stuff, and we've come back to it again because it's one of those ubiquitous universal things that have to be understood and stuff. So a person can look at the variances and randomness throughout their life and make more and have a tighter mental grip on that and know how to address it and stuff, and how to work with it as time passes. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've already been sitting here with all of this, visual noise and stuff, with the windows being the application window being improperly set up and everything. I feel like I made my point, so I could just end it here. It's almost 10 minutes, so